My husband, Jackson, and my mother-in-law, Nora, who grew up poor, sold the house without my permission while I was gone and received the proceeds. And they purposefully breached the contract, laughing at me, the house's owner, for having to pay for the compensation that would result from this incident. However, they were unaware of the implications that would occur. Their selfish actions were trampling on not just my feelings, but also those of my parents. I will never forgive them for what they did. I have to pay since this is my home. You should hurry up and pay. If you claim that, then I do not own this house. And my husband, Jackson, and my mother-in-law, Nora, are going to hell because of what they did all by themselves. I have been married to Jackson for 10 years. Jackson and I have known each other since we were children, and we have been together since then. We are in a marriage in which my socioeconomic standing is much higher than Jackson's. I've lived with my parents, who own a business, while Jackson, on the other hand, grew up in a single-parent family and did not have a comfortable existence. Nevertheless, my parents and I were drawn to Jackson's charisma, so we didn't worry about his history. In fact, I believe my parents have always loved him as if he were their own son. My parents opted to move into my father's other property to enjoy their retirement, so we are now living together at my parents' previous home. This was also my parents' plan to help us as much as possible. We should officially shift ownership of the house contract soon. Following that, you have complete freedom to do whatever you choose. You're considering moving at some point, right? Perhaps you could use the money for that. My father told me a few months ago that he was going to give me their house. The house was well maintained and not at all inconvenient to live in, but it was too large for us who had decided against having children. I thanked my parents, and even though it was before the ownership shift, I gradually began dealing with the real estate company. Hey Jackson, I told you to complete this form. If I don't submit it today, we won't make it on time. How will we sell the house without this? Okay, just write it down. You're just overreacting. If you submit it today, you'll be on time. You don't need to inform me every time you know. Simply do it on your own. Or has his warm and true personality gone? Since our marriage, Jackson has become increasingly lethargic, leaving everything to me to do. He often asks me to create highly significant paperwork on his behalf, believing that if I refused, I would wind up causing problems for the family, and that if I did, everything would be fine. So I just have to do it myself. I wonder whether he'll continue to treat me like a servant like this. We decided to sell the house we were living in jointly. We've also chosen a new home in a location that will benefit both of us. But I was concerned about the future of my marriage with Jackson and spent my days debating whether this was the correct thing to do or not. Then one day I received word that my parents had been gravely injured in a car accident, and I raced to see them in the hospital. My parents survived, but they were told they would need someone to care for them for the next 3 months. I'll ask Jackson. I'll ask my employer if I can change my work schedule as well. I'll be there to support you both. I asked my spouse if I might travel home to my parents for an extended period of time to help them. He replied, "It's okay, it's your thing," and he had readily consented. To be honest, his tone suggested that he couldn't care less about my parents' well-being. Anyway, I could go help my folks right now. But then another worry emerged in my head. Will Jackson be able to live on his own while I am gone? Jackson is one of those people who cannot do any housework. He can possibly eat, but he cannot wash his own clothing. And the concept of bringing out the garbage on a specific day of the week never crosses his mind. I would not want my house to become a garbage dump. I was concerned, but I explained the issue to Nora, my mother-in-law, and asked her to back Jackson. Please feel free to use and do anything in the house that you want. Oh, Barry, you're in big danger, aren't you? I'm confident your parents have enough money to pay someone to help them. Or do you simply miss your own parents, Mary? Don't worry, I'll take excellent care of my own son. So don't worry, you can stay for more than 3 months if you wish. Nora adores Jackson and most likely regards me as the woman who took her kid away from her. I was uncomfortable with the sarcasm she used in our chats. However, I thanked Nora while concealing my annoyance because I knew she was the only person I could rely on at the time. Then I'd acquired everything I needed and went to where my parents were. Every day was frantic, and 3 months passed so rapidly that I couldn't keep in touch with Jackson adequately. But it was worthwhile, and my parents were improving by the day. And as things returned to normal after the hospitalization, I was ready to return home. I got into my car and drove home quickly. I left the town's natural environs behind and made my way to the familiar countryside before returning home. But what? The house was no longer the one I knew. A for sale sign was placed in front of the house, and the real estate business identified on it was foreign to me. What's happening? I panicked and contacted Jackson. On the other end of the line, I heard Jackson snort a small laugh as if mocking me. I sold the house and moved back to my parents' residence. I did everything for you while you were away. I didn't comprehend anything my husband said, so I rushed straight to my in-laws' place to have him clarify the matter to me. When I arrived at my in-laws' house, which was a 5-minute drive from mine, the first thing I noticed was my personal items heaped up by the front entrance. I was surprised and perplexed, and excuse me, I'm going to pass by. The contractor who arrived behind me rang the doorbell of the house, exchanged some documents with Nora, then placed the mound of my personal stuff into his truck and went. And then Jackson stepped out of the home, and both Nora and Jackson were smiling as they counted the money they had received from the contractor. And I couldn't even recognize them because they were dressed so fancy, and their automobile had been upgraded to a luxury model. "Hello, Nora. What is this all about?" I stormed up to Nora in a semi-panic state. "What are you actually saying? I got rid of your belongings in that residence for you. You bought all of those pointless items. Since you were so affluent, I believe that girls like you are incapable of maintaining their personal belongings. You're such an unfit wife to prioritize your own parents over your own spouse for so long. I feel so sad for Jackson, who has such a sleazy wife. That's why I advised him to get divorced from such a woman as you." Then Jackson informed me that the house was now in your name, so I agreed to accept it in exchange for alimony. I discovered a real estate company that would pay me a good amount for the house, and it sold promptly. You were the one who told me I could do whatever I wanted, so I did. Nora then gave me her contract with the real estate company, smiling condescendingly at me. The contract was signed approximately a month ago. However, that house should have already been under contract with another real estate company, correct? And if it's my residence, any contract without my signature is null and void. You did it without notifying me, and now you've breached the contract, and they'll demand compensation. In a panic, I told Nora about the repercussions, but I had previously heard that from Jackson, and it was you who signed the deal with another real estate firm without even consulting my son, correct? That is none of my business, so I did exactly what you did, doing everything on my own. I couldn't care less about who signed the deal or anything. Isn't this something you do on a regular basis? So if compensation is required, you should be responsible for paying it. It's your own home. She shook it off as she said this. She appears to trust Jackson's account, which was given solely from a victim's standpoint. I didn't know what to say to Nora, so I looked at Jackson's face as if to seek help, but I was surprised to realize that my husband was also looking at me with a mocking smirk, exactly like Nora. Finally, this day has arrived. This is vengeance, you know. You've actually been making fun of me for being poor my entire life, right? I'm the only one in my family who has a different level of life and ideals. You and your folks must have considered it humorous. I've always felt miserable when I was around you. If being impoverished amuses you, I'll teach you what money can do. I don't believe you're the only one who lives a wonderful good life. Go to hell. Jackson expressed his fury toward me, and he smacked me with the divorce papers, which were all signed except for mine. I could have had Mom do everything and send it in, but it wouldn't have been a decent vengeance. What a remarkable and dramatic turn of events. This is an interesting incident in which the young lady who made fun of the impoverished is swatted down. There is no daddy or mommy here to aid you. What are you going to do about it? Jackson and Nora appeared pleased and enthusiastic about what they had accomplished, but I was so fired up with them that all of my rage dissipated because both of them were making a deadly mistake. I apologize for interrupting your incredibly exciting moment, but this is not my residence. You're the ones who are going to hell. Huh? Huh? I have decided to reveal everything. There was no need to cover for them anymore. I grabbed a document out of my backpack and showed it to them. This is the official registry for that house. As we spoke over the phone the other day, the ownership name was changed to Jackson's name. As you are aware, due to my parents' accident, the process has been delayed. However, everything changed just a week ago when you both agreed to sell the house. Huh? I did not hear anything about this. Of course you did not. I called you to see if I should mail it to you, but you ignored me and simply ordered me to take care of it. You probably don't remember this, but I double-checked with you to see whether everything was okay. Jackson peered at the registry document, then at me in bewilderment. How could this be Jackson's? Normally, if I were the parent, I would have given it to my daughter. Do you know? Nora was likewise taken aback and rushed to approach me. So this is what my parents wanted. My parents had always cherished Jackson as if he were their own biological son. They also regarded you, Nora, as a reputable individual. When my parents agreed to gift us the house, they believed Jackson would always take excellent care of me and that it would be a way for them to express their gratitude to you, Nora, for working so hard to raise such a wonderful spouse. However, you not only betrayed me, but you also trampled on my parents' sincere feelings. Jackson and Nora turned pale as they learned of my parents' genuine feelings. Their hands, clamped over their mouths, trembled. As I have stated, this is going to be a major issue for both real estate agencies. You can anticipate that they will seek significant compensation. I'll call the real estate agency with whom I originally signed the contract. So could you both just contact the real estate agency with whom you signed the deal independently? I still can't believe the real estate agency accepted your shoddy justifications and signed the contract. If you have an opinion, don't be a scumbag and act like it, but tell me first. You are not impoverished because of a lack of funds. You are poor because of your hearts. My tone became increasingly aggressive, and I eventually accused both of them outright. Finally, I took out my cell phone to call the real estate agency and waited a minute. This is not what I wanted. I was merely heartbroken because you had left me. Anyway, let us figure this out as a married couple. Oh, I understand. I could just buy the house that's currently on the market, then call the old real estate agent, and we pretend nothing happened. You're wealthy. Can't you do that? Please understand that this entire situation began with my mother. Jackson, who had been beside Nora the entire time, switched sides and brushed up against me in an anxious manner. He was likely attempting to comfort me, but he failed to recognize how self-centered his tone was. Hello, Jackson. Are you betraying me now? I made all of the preparations for you. I can't believe you would desert your own mother to prioritize your wife. What a heartless son. Oh, Nora, putting parents first is scum, based on what you said earlier. Then you're fortunate that Jackson is not a scumbag, aren't you? You should state that he is a good son. Nora appeared outraged at her own son's betrayal, but her previous words bit her back, and she was unable to say anything else. That's correct. You are the most important person to me right now, so I am going to adjust my mindset and do my best. So don't get me wrong. Nobody mentioned anything about forgiving you. Jackson eagerly seized my hand once I had gotten Nora to calm down, but I quickly brushed it away and scowled at him viciously. I was already fed up with your laziness. Besides, when things like these go wrong, you prefer to blame others, right? And you leave others to solve your own problems, huh? How could I put my trust in you to change your attitude? Allow me to say it clearly. I am not your secretary or servant. If you are an adult, you should accept responsibility for your own acts. You'll be paying for this for the rest of your life. You and Nora, both of you. With that, I took Jackson's divorce papers, stamped my signature on the spot, and walked away, leaving the two of them stunned. After then, despite some difficulties, my divorce from my ex-husband was finally completed. Jackson and Nora filed a lawsuit against my family, claiming that my parents had defrauded them and that we were liable for damages. Of course, they lost. As expected, both real estate agencies have held them accountable for compensation, and I've been told that they'll have to pay a large sum of money as a result of their harmful activities. Furthermore, they appear to blame each other for their faults, and from this, it appears that they will remain at rock bottom for a long time. My firm had arranged for me to continue working remotely so that I could help my parents. So I'm returning to my parents' home and continuing to assist them while I work. Honey, the bath is ready. Thank you. Onto the dishes, so you take a bath first today. You must be exhausted from your rehabilitation session. So you should get in, Mary. I'll get in later. I also want to clean the bathtub afterward, so Mom, get in and relax. My parents are still recovering from the accident, but they continue to support each other and spend time together happily. For the first time in years, I moved home with my parents, and as I watch the two of them get along so well, I think about this. After seeing my parents, I realized what was missing from my marriage to Jackson. I believe it was based on mutual respect and consideration. I could have been more considerate, but now that I think about it, I doubt Jackson and Nora had any feelings for me. At first, the divorce from Jackson made me sad and frustrated, but now I can confidently say it was for the best. If I ever meet someone again, I will have to exercise extreme caution. I hope I never have to worry about my parents again. I determined that I would take the lessons I learned from the incident with Jackson and Nora and apply them to the rest of my life. And I would remember and never forget to thank my parents as I began my new life in a new location.